Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We need to go over some good news for AMC stock, but what in the world is going on here in the markets today? Look at the Russell, down 1.5%. Whew. It is pretty bloody out there on Wall Street. Index is in the red, but not by too much. So I think we do need to talk right here and right now. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and source your comments, questions, or concerns down below in the comment section. So we really don't have much that is actually happening today in the markets. We didn't get any important economic data that caused the Russell to sell off 1.5%. We really didn't get anything, but the Russell is getting absolutely destroyed. A really risk-off kind of day today. Now, we're not going to have that much economic data as well for this week. And actually, I believe it is tomorrow you're going to get the ISM Services PMI. And I think that's the biggest data point we will have for this week. But it's hard to tell what is actually causing the Russell to sell off this much today. On one hand, you could say that bond yields like the 10-year Treasury up 9 basis points today. I mean, that could be helping to cause this down move in the Russell, but it just looks like a mass exodus of small and even like small mid-cap stocks. And AMC is a part of that index that is getting absolutely worked on today. Just beaten into the ground. AMC stock at the time of recording this video is down 0.61%. So considering the Russell is down 1.5%, I would say it's a pretty fair day for AMC, only down 0.65% at the time of recording this video. Obviously, things can change and it's going to be volatile, but hey, not a terrible day in the grand scope of things. Now let's look at some of the news that came out. So this good news for AMC is this: the domestic summer box office tops $4 billion, jumps 19% annually, said B. Riley Securities. This is really good news for AMC. This is good news for really all movie theater companies, but you are heading into what could be a slower season for theatrical releases because of this strike that continues to be ongoing. A lot of movie theaters are going to maybe delay some films to actually hit theaters because they don't know when they're going to get more films coming. So they want to kind of prioritize when they're going to be bringing in some revenue here. Now, we know we got Taylor Swift's movie coming out, and we know that should be a pretty good success as well. So this is really good news to see the box office continuing to do well. It says the unfortunate reality is that this fall's movie slate is light, except for the Deus Ex Machina of Taylor Swift's Eras Tour concert film, which opens in October and could rake in $100 million in its initial weekend. Otherwise, the film release calendar is relatively light after Dune Part 2 moved to 2024, and Sony's comic book adaptation Kraven the Hunter, the Ghostbusters sequel, and Zendaya's tennis drama Challengers were delayed because actors can't promote the blockbuster hopeful during the ongoing strike. So that is a big problem that AMC is going to face, but for right now, this is good news. It could, be helping to kind of keep AMC doing better today. It's obviously doing much better than the Russell 2000. And on any normal day where the Russell is down 1.5%, you would see AMC stock getting absolutely obliterated. And that's not happening right now. So that's great. Now, I want to look at some of this data. Keep in mind, the data is not accurate. You have to take it with a big grain of salt. Now, something that is happening that I don't know if it's accurate or not. It's really hard to say, but the cost to borrow fees look like they are spiking. So cost to borrow fees were at about 13%. Now they are at about 82%, and some ratings we have gotten around the 33% range. So cost to borrow fees are getting very active, and I believe this is because we're about to get an official short interest report, which should be on September 9th. And I think at that point, short interest is going to come in over 40%, and I think you're going to see a lot more people talking about a potential short squeeze in AMC stock, and that is only just a couple of days away as of right now. Now, AMC stock is still on the threshold securities list. As we pointed out really over this weekend, you had FTDs that came due yesterday of 7.7 million. You have FTDs today of 7 million that come due. So even the FTDs from yesterday, they kind of have to be covered out here today. Now, it's a running aggregate number, so 14 million FTDs, maybe 2 million FTDs get covered today, or 1 million. All in all, it is buying pressure, and that could be another thing that is kind of helping AMC stock do a little bit better here today. And then when you add on top of that the $13 calls from last week, as well as the $13 puts that should add to the buying pressure as well, that closed calls into the money, puts out the money on Friday, that is also helping us out today a little bit. And I know it sounds stupid, right, saying AMC is doing well when it's down 1%. In context of what other stocks are doing out there, AMC is doing just fine. And I think these two reasons are likely what is causing this outperformance on the day today. Now, around September 9th, again, like I said, that's when we will get more numbers coming out as far as the official short interest, and we can get a better gauge of what's actually happening with the stock. Now, if you guys did not watch the video that was put out yesterday, highly recommend you guys do. We go over kind of my expectations for this week, but I'm not expecting any more downside from here. I think the biggest catalyst we need to be watching for is when AMC does actually announce that they have raised capital. When they announce that they've raised capital, this 80% sell-off you have seen, that's where it's like, hey, was it justified? Was it not? If AMC were to dilute shareholders 100%, well, 80% sell-off, that's probably justified. If AMC only does a little bit of dilution, is a 80% sell-off justified? Probably not. That could actually cause the stock to rally on news that AMC did raise capital, and hopefully at much higher prices than where the stock is at right now. So that's another big catalyst. I don't know when that happens. I don't know if it's this week, next week, a month or two from now, but at some point that will happen. Now, if we take a look at the Stonko tracker data and the option activity right now for this Friday, you have 11,748 calls currently in the money, 60,119 calls that are out the money, puts that are in the money at 20,326, puts out the money at 108,495. So quite a bit of option activity for this week. You have about double the amount of puts currently in the money compared to calls in the money, but it's one of those things where if you do see an up move in AMC stock, then you start to get a lot more calls going into the money relatively soon. Let's take a look at the option chain and see what the numbers look like. So at the $13 call, AMC stock is at $12.96 per share, so not quite at the $13 level right now. You have about 6,900 for open interest at the $13 call. At the $13.50 call, you have 13,502, and then at the $14 call, you have 8,390. I think it's very possible that you run through those levels this week. Now, if this sell-off in the Russell 2000 continues, well, maybe not. I guess that would change the situation here. You're really seeing the Russell taking a beating, and usually when this happens, there's a reason for it. There's something really bad happening. I can't put a kind of pinpoint on what's actually happening today. If you look at this article, it says Fed Governor Waller agrees the central bank can proceed carefully on interest rates. Fed Governor Christopher Waller told CNBC on Tuesday that a hell of a good week of data will buy the central bank some time on policy decisions. While he was encouraged by the recent reports on where prices are heading, he said they also indicate that the Fed cannot afford to hold rates higher until it is sure inflation is on the run. So I guess that's not great news for the Russell 2000, but a 1.5% sell-off? That's actually kind of crazy when you're looking at a recession that's right around the corner. It's very obvious. I mean, look at the delinquency rates on autos at 3.6%. The last time you were at 3.6% delinquency rates on car loans was back in 2010. The highest you hit during the Great Financial Crisis was 4.4%, and unemployment was 10% at that time. Unemployment is 3.8% today, and you're at 3.6% auto delinquencies. Do you understand the problem here? People don't go delinquent on their car. That just doesn't happen unless you really just cannot pay for it. You got to take your kids to school. You got to take them to doctors. You got to go to work yourself, It's just not something you default on. So I think the markets and I think the Fed is looking at the wrong things here, and it looks like they're going to over-tighten. So I would just financially, you guys, I would prepare for a recession. And hopefully if it takes a couple of months, you're prepared for it. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the other numbers over here on Ortex. See if anything looks accurate. And on face value, it doesn't look like it. A short score of 65, $180 million worth of short positions currently in AMC stock, 8.71% short interest of free float. Free float out on loan at 8.82%. Shares out on loan 13.92 million. Days to cover 1.98. Cost to borrow 8.93%, and utilization of about 51%. The only data point that looks maybe accurate is the days to cover, just because the volume has been relatively high on AMC, and considering the size of AMC's float, it's pretty high. Like even back here on August 30th, you had, well, this was a almost 17% update for AMC, but you had 55 million shares actually trading hands that day. That is almost the total amount of shares that are outstanding. So the flow is turning quite a bit here, pretty much every single day. So it looks like the days to cover might be accurate, but everything else is not, and you really have to take it with a big grain of salt. Again, September 9th is going to be a big day for AMC because we're going to get the exchange reported short interest number. So do go ahead and keep that in mind. And last we knew, the short interest was 29.25% back here on August 15th, and the price of AMC has dropped about 60% since then. So odds are short interest numbers are a lot higher now, guys. So that is going to go ahead and do it for this video. That's what you need to know. Nothing crazy happening out there, but still an overall outperformance today for AMC stock. So you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.